I believe that everyone should be 5 minutes late wherever we go. Now, that's a pretty hefty thing to say. But hear me out. I'm not saying that we show up to everything in life unprepared or careless. I'm talking about the good side of lateness. And yes, there can be a good side, where you let your mind or your curiosity carry you away for a few extra minutes. Now, this talk may seem like a way for me to get administration to excuse me out of my many tardies at school. And maybe it is a little. But really, what I'm trying to point out is how rare it is in today's world that we are living in the moment so much that we lose track of time. I mean, think about it. When was the last time that you talked with a friend without bringing up a past exam or an upcoming party? When was the last time that you let yourself sit with your thoughts, not stressing about the past and not rushing about the future? So, join me today as we talk about what exactly constitutes as living in the moment, why it's such an important habit to practice, and what we can do to integrate this habit into our day-to-day lives. So, what exactly counts as living in the moment? Because a lot of the time, we can think that we're being present, when in fact, we aren't. For example, replaying a past argument in your head and thinking about different ways you could have clocked that person does not count as living in the moment. Also, many people seem to have the assumption that just because you're relaxing, that automatically means you're being present. But, surprise, surprise, posting TikTok theories about the Summer I Turned Pretty finale while eating dinner does not actually count as living in the moment. Living in the moment is choosing not to dwell on instances from the past or the future, only focusing on anything and everything pertaining to the present moment. Now, it's definitely a pretty well-known fact that many of us in today's world struggle to live in the moment. But just to put it into perspective, in a Harvard study conducted with around 2,000 participants, where each participant was checked in with at random times throughout the day to see what tasks they were completing and what their mind was focused on while they were completing that task. It turns out that these participants were not paying attention and were not fully engaged with what was right in front of them 57% of the time. Next, how beneficial can living in the moment actually be? I mean, how much of a difference can being present actually make in our lives, right? Well, it turns out it can make a huge difference. In a University of Southampton study, those who had downloaded a mindfulness app for a week showcased 19.2% greater reduction in depression symptoms compared to those who were in the control group. There was also a higher satisfaction with life reported and overall better physical health reported. And why is it so difficult for us to live in the moment? Why is it so hard for us to focus on what's right in front of us this much? Well, in this day and age, it's actually quite easy to get distracted. We are always so go, go, go. Many of us suffer from something called hurry sickness, which is defined by a Harvard professor as a chronic state of stress, where your mind feels a constant need to do things quickly or rush through life. Everybody seems to be saying, okay, as soon as I get this Common App done and graduate college, I'll take some time for myself. Then, once I land this internship in college. Then, once I graduate college. Then, once I get a job. Then, once I'm married. Then, once I have a baby. And then, once my baby graduates college. And then, all of a sudden, we look around and we realize that we've let our entire life pass us by without stopping once to admire it or to breathe even. We fill our schedules to the brim. We are always on the move. We never self-reflect, and we never, ever let ourselves just sit there and take everything in. I mean, the average teen spends around 6-7 hours a day on social media. 6-7 hours. That means that even when we are given the opportunity to live, we fill it up with mindless scrolling. So, what can we do to fix it? And well, ideally living in the moment would mean that we'd be able to be immersed in the present all the time. That's a little too much to expect from high schoolers whose minds are always racing a million miles a minute. I mean, think about it. thoughts that are racing through your mind without letting them take over. As it is described in the Headspace Guide to Meditation documentary, your thoughts are like cars passing by on a road, and you are just an observer watching these thoughts pass by. You aren't jumping from one car to the next, from one thought to the next, or fixating on one specific car, one specific thought, just watching. It's an eye-opening concept about the relationship you can have with your thoughts, how you don't have to stop them or control them to be living in the moment. And when we first start trying to live in the moment, it can honestly feel overwhelming. Your brain doesn't just magically quiet down just because you suddenly decide to be present. It's even more harder to be present because you've spent so much of your life multitasking and jumping from thought to thought. So again, it's instead of focusing on shoving your thoughts into one box, think of it as taking note of these thoughts going through your mind, instead of letting them take over. That's what living in the moment really looks like. So maybe being 5 minutes late isn't about the time at all. Maybe it's about giving ourselves permission to slow down, to linger a few extra seconds in conversation, to look up from our phones, and to stay a couple extra minutes in the sunlight before we rush off to the next thing. Because those 5 minutes we think we're losing, that's actually where life is happening. Thank you.